Hi everyone, Master Moon here, and I'm your science teacher at Montfort College Primary Section. I hope that everyone at home is fine and enjoying your staycation. The whole purpose of this quarantine time is to keep as many of us safe and healthy as possible. So teachers as well as masters wants the students to know that they should stay home and stay safe so that everything can return to normal as quickly as possible. I would like you to know that today is a very special day because this is our first day of learning online. But before that, let's watch my intro. Okay, back to school. Once again, welcome everyone. So this is Science P5. Before we will jump into our lesson proper, let me introduce my name. So my full name is Raymond S. Ancog and I'm from the Philippines. You can call me Master Mon for short. And then my co-teaching partner is Master Porn Pichai and you can call him Master Peg. He's from here, Chiang Mai. Okay, we will jump into our objectives. What's our learning objectives for today's class? So number one, the students will be able to define reproduction. Okay. Number two, students will be able to learn about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. And third, the students will be able to know the different parts of a flower. So that's our learning objectives. Next is our topic. So today's topic is all about reproduction in plants. This is the first unit in our Science IE book. So what are the contents or topics that we are covering for today? Number one, what is reproduction? Number two, sexual reproduction in flowering plants. And number three, parts of a flower. Okay. Then first thing, we should familiarize our vocabulary. Okay, what are the key vocabulary words? Number one is we have reproduction. So everybody repeat after me. Reproduction. Reproduction. So reproduction, it means to create or recreate something. Okay, next is we have organisms. 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 So organisms, these are individual form of life such as an animal, human, plant or trees, then fungus or bacteria. Okay, let's zoom in. So animals, humans, plants and trees, and then fungus or bacteria. Okay, then we have unicellular or single cell. Unicellular or single cell. Unicellular or single cell. So these are made up of only one cell. So because uni, it means one, okay? And single, it also means one. So one great example of this is a bacteria, okay? So this one, students. Bacteria are single-celled organisms. So bacteria are very, very small, okay? We will use an instrument called the microscope to view, okay? To see them because they are very, very small. Okay, let's zoom in. So these are your bacteria. Okay, next is we have species. Everybody, species. Species. Okay, so species, students, these are group of animals, plants, or other living things. Okay. Then next is we have multicellular or multicellular. Repeat after me. multicellular. Okay, so these are organisms that consist of more than one cell. Okay, two or more. It could be hundreds, thousand, or even millions of cells. So example is we humans. Okay, we are a multicellular organism. Then we have plants, also plants and trees, and other animals. Okay, next is we have asexual reproduction. Everybody, asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. So this is a reproduction without sex. Okay, without sex, meaning there is no male, no female cells that are involved, only one parent. Okay, so in this form of reproduction, a single organism, okay, meaning a one-celled organisms, make a copy of itself. So here's our illustration. Okay, so first is we have a single cell divide into two, and these two new formed cells are called the daughter cells. Okay, so this is our next vocab, everybody. Daughter cells. Daughter cells. So daughter cells, these are two identical cells that form when a single cell divides. So identical, student. Identical means the same. Okay, they are exactly the same to the parent. Okay, to the parent. So yeah, two identical cells that form when a single cell divides. So here's our example. Okay, cell division, then daughter cells. Okay, next is we have sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. So these are organisms that reproduce sexually, and they have two different sexes. We have male, okay, it needs male, and a female cells. And did you know that this is how most of the animals and plants reproduce? Meaning 80 to 90% we reproduce through sexual reproduction. And our example here, the best example, we humans. Okay, the last one is we have gametes. Everybody, gametes. Gametes. Okay, so these are mature sexual reproductive cell. Great example for gametes is we have the sperm for the male and egg cell for the female. Okay, so these are the gametes. So sperm and then egg cell. Okay, so
my name, my age, my favorite color, my height, my sign, do I have a lover? What's my nationality? Here's some things that inspire me.
A few inches later.
okay, so we have here organisms aren't immortal. So can you give me examples of organisms? Okay, we have humans, plants, and animals, right? So all of these are not immortal. So what do you mean by immortal? It means that we will eventually die. So the question is, how can we continue, okay, our species to live on? So we will go to the process of reproduction. Everybody repeat after me, reproduction. Reproduction. Okay? So we will talk about the system, reproduction system. So humans, animals, plants, and even lower unicellular organisms needs to reproduce. Okay, so it's a very important, it's a very vital role of us to reproduce. Okay. So first is we need to understand the whole process of reproduction. So reproduction, student, is actually came from a two word. We have a re and then production. Okay, so re means again, and then production, it means making. So if we combine reproduction, it means making something again. So does it mean that making the same organisms? I think not. This means that we are making the same species. Okay, the same species. So for example, a human make the same species, and then for a mango tree, make the same species of a mango tree, and then for a cat, okay, same species can have a birth of a kitten. So this is the same species. Okay. So, question. Does all the organisms reproduce in the same manner? Do you agree with that? Does all the organisms reproduce in the same manner? Maybe the answer is no. Okay. So like for our example here, you can see there is, this one here is, it's not a fried egg, but it's a bacteria. Okay. So bacteria is a single-celled organism, students. Okay. While in the other hand, the whale is an example of a multicellular organisms. Okay. So do they reproduce in the same manner? What is your answer? Okay. The answer is no. Okay. So there are two main types of reproduction. Okay. So two main types of reproduction. So one great example here, we have a bacteria, which is a unicellular organisms. Again, can you remember what is a unicellular? Uni means one. Okay, so as one or a single-celled organisms. Okay, so these bacteria, they can reproduce through asexual reproduction. Okay, asexual reproduction. So again, asexual means absence of sex. It means that there is no male, there is no female that is involved in this kind of reproduction. So in this process, like for example, the bacteria, okay, the single cell will divide, okay, will split into two, and these split cells, they are called the daughter cells. Okay, the daughter cells. These daughter cells are identical. Okay, can you remember what is identical? Meaning it's completely the same. No? Identical, they are the same to the parent cell. Okay, so that is through asexual reproduction. On the other hand, we have here the whale, which is a multicellular organism. Again, multi means many. No? Two or more, okay, maybe hundreds or millions of cells inside the body. And these multicellular organisms, they reproduce through sexual reproduction. Again, everybody, sexual reproduction. From the word sex, meaning they need a male and a female cells. Like for example, this one here, the gametes. Okay, so gametes, these are mature cells like the sperm and the egg. They need to what? Fuse, okay, to combine to form a baby. Okay, that is sexual reproduction. As a short review, we will play a short quiz through a mini game. Okay, this game is called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Do you want to play this game? Okay, so play from the start. Okay, who wants to be a millionaire? Let's play. In science, i.e. review quiz. You can have choices. I mean, lifeline 50-50, ask the audience, or phone a friend. Click continue. Choose your game. We will choose play game number 1. Let's begin. Question number 1. What is reproduction? What is reproduction? A. To create or to make something again. B. Destroy. C. To refresh. Or is it D. None of the above? Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. And the correct answer is A. To create or to make something again. Yay! We gain $100. Continue. Question number 2. How many cells are there in a unicellular organism? Again, how many cells are there in a unicellular organism? Is it A, 3 cells, B, 1, C, 2, or D, 4? 10 seconds. Okay, time is up. And the correct answer is, how many cells are there in a unicellular organism? And the answer is B, 1. Okay, uni means 1. And we've got $200. Continue. Question number 3. What are the 2 types of reproduction? What are the 2 types of reproduction? Is it A, single and multicellular? B, living and non-living things? C, sexual and asexual reproduction? Or is it D, humans and animals? 10 seconds. Okay, time is up. And the correct answer is letter C. Sexual and asexual reproduction. Now we've got $300. Continue. Okay, next question. Multicellular organism, it means, is it A, single cell, B, 1 cell, C, 2 or more, or is it D, none of the above? 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. And the correct answer is letter C, 2 or more. You got $500. Continue. Next question, what is sexual reproduction? What is sexual reproduction? Is it A, involve male and female cells? B, no male and female cells? C, photosynthesis? Or is it D, cells? 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and the correct answer is letter A. Wow, we've got $1,000. Congratulations. Okay, this time we will have a short break. Reproduction in plants. So we have learned that all organisms like humans, plants, and animals needs to reproduce to continue their species. in the future. So therefore, reproduction is very significant, or it's very important. So again, we define reproduction. This is the process in which living organisms give birth to an offspring which is same or at least similar. Everybody read this one. Offspring. Offspring. Offspring, students, it means the baby. Okay, so living organisms give birth to a baby which is the same or similar. Okay, so that is reproduction. Okay, so like for example, like the plants. Okay, it's a living organisms. It needs to create another plants to continue their species. Okay, so for reproduction in plant, students, they have different types. So some plants, they are absence. Okay, there's an absence of flowers, fruits, and seeds. So this is the introduction of, there are two types. So here we have two types of reproduction in plants. So the first one is asexual, and the second type is sexual reproduction. So we will talk about first what is a sexual reproduction in plants. So in this kind of reproduction, it involves the gametes. Everybody repeat after me. Gametes. Okay, so gametes, students, these are the mature cells of a male and a female. Okay, so the green one here is the male, the pink one is the female cells. Okay, so these are gametes. While, how about in asexual reproduction? Okay, so asexual, again, meaning absence of sex. There is no sex involved, no male, no female cells. Okay, so no gametes, does not involve gametes. So they are part of the parent body and then will create a new organisms. Okay. So see, so in a sexual reproduction, there are four main types. The first type is we have vegetative propagation. Everybody, vegetative propagation. Okay, that is the first one, followed by your fragmentation. 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 Then we have the third one, budding. Budding. And then the last one, spore formation. Spore formation. Okay, very good. So those are the four main types of asexual reproduction. Okay. Next, we will jump into the parts of a flower. Okay, so what are the parts? What are the parts of a flower? Okay, next topic is we will talk about the parts of a flower. So we had just learned about sexual and asexual reproduction in plants. So we have here types of asexual reproduction in plants. So again, what is asexual? Meaning there is no sex that is involved. No male, no female cells. And then we had learned also sexual reproduction in plants, meaning we need gametes. We need male cells and the female cells. Okay? So flower, student, are these are the reproductive structures. Again, everybody, reproductive structures. So what are reproductive structures? These are specific organs that help to produce, okay, help to create new species. Okay, so like in the flowers, there is called this one, stamen. Everybody repeat after me, stamen. Stamen. So a stamen, student, is the male sex organ. Okay, it's the male sex organ. Okay, it's like the boy sex organ. And then the opposite of stamen is the pistil. Everybody repeat after me, pistil. Pistil. So this is the female sex organ. Okay? So now we will learn about the typical structure of a flower. Okay, so what are the different components of a flower? So one great example here is we will use hibiscus flower. Okay, so what are the components of a flower? So we will divide it into two different parts. Okay, first part is we have the essential parts, and the second one is the non-essential parts. So what is the difference between this? Okay, so what is essential and what is a non-essential? So let us first watch this animation. Okay, so this labeled part here is are the essential parts. So essential parts meaning they are directly, everybody repeat after me, directly. Directly. So they are directly, okay, meaning straight. They are mainly involved in reproduction. Okay, so those are the essential parts. Okay. Okay, next is we have, how about the non-essential parts? So non-essential parts, these are not directly involved in reproduction. Okay, so they are not really, they're indirectly involved in the production. So stamen again is the male part of the flower. Okay, so stamen. So it's easy to remember men. Okay, men means male. Okay. So this is the male part. It consists of two important parts. We have the anther here. Everybody repeat after me, anther. Then second is the filament. Everybody, filament. Filament. Okay. So what are the functions of these two, anther and filament? So inside the anther, you can find the pollen grains, student. Okay. So what is a pollen grains, by the way? Pollen grains, these are very small, powdery grain. Okay, they are very small and very light. So this is the male reproductive cell. Again, male reproductive cell of the flower. Okay, so these pollen grains has very important role because, see, pollen grains, they are need to be transferred. Okay, transferred to from the anther going to the female. Okay, so they need to go to another place. Okay, need to be transferred. So from the anther, they need to travel to the female part of the flower. Now we will talk about the female part of the flower. So this is the pistil. Okay, the whole part of the pistil. So what are the components of the pistil? We have stigma. Everybody, stigma. Stigma. Then we have style. Style. ovary, ovary. Okay, so these are the three important parts of the pistil. So what will happen if when the pollen grains, okay, the pollen grains need to be transferred to this one, to the stigma. Okay, so the pollen grains will transfer to the stigma by different factors, either by wind. Okay, there is wind, so the pollen grains will fly, or it could be carried by insects. Okay, like you know, insects like bees or butterflies. Okay, so they need, these pollen grains will travel down to this tile. Okay, because this tile connects to the stigma. Okay, the pollen grains will go down to the style and then go down to the ovary. Okay, so by the way, ovary is it's a big swollen basal portion containing the ovules. Okay, and these ovules would then contains the egg cell. Okay, which the pollen grains and the ovules will combine or join together. Okay, so what is an ovule? Okay, so ovules, this will develop into an embryo. Okay, everybody, embryo. So what is an embryo? Okay, and an embryo will turn actually into a seed. Okay, seed. So what is a seed? Okay, we need a seed to plant a new trees or a new plants. So this ovule will become an embryo, and then this ovary will eventually develop as a fruit. Okay? Okay, let's continue our lesson about reproduction in plants. So all living organisms are all capable of giving birth to young ones, or either exactly the same or somewhat similar to them. Can you tell me what is the process of giving birth to offspring known as? Anyone? Okay, so we have learned that it's called reproduction. So we have defined reproduction as the process in which living organisms give birth to an offspring which is same or similar. Okay, same or similar, it means identical, meaning they are exactly the same. Okay, so this is reproduction. So in simple terms, so when we say living organisms, it should include plants as well, right? Yes, of course. Okay, so we have seen a new plant emerging from a seed when stored underground. So where does the seed come from? Okay, it comes from the plant. Absolutely. But wait, have you seen all the plants always giving birth? Okay, the answer is no. There are many flowers and plants do not bear fruits and seeds. So don't these plants reproduce? Or do they reproduce by other means? Well, let's all answer this. So reproduction in plants can occur in different types. Okay, so first is we have your sexual reproduction and then sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction involves sex cells or the gametes. Okay, so again, gametes, these are sex cells like either sperm cells or an egg cell, or in the plants it could be a pollen grains or an egg cell or the ovules. Okay, so gametes. The green one is actually the male cells, and the pink one is the female cells. So these two cells, they are need to be joined together, okay, to be fused together to form a new seed or to form a new daughter cell. How about sexual reproduction? So in contrast of sexual reproduction, it does not involve gametes. Okay, so In asexual reproduction, they use the part of the parent body, then forming a new organism. Interesting, isn't it? So the question is, which part of the parent body will grow into a new organism? So based on various factors, asexual reproduction is So based on various factors, asexual reproduction is categorized into different types. The first type is we have vegetative propagation. Everybody repeat after me. Vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation. Second is we have fragmentation. Fragmentation. Third is we have budding. Budding. And the last one is we call the spore formation. Spore formation. So we have learned this 4 different types of asexual reproduction. Next is we will jump into the different parts of a flower. Okay, so what are the different parts of a flower? So we had learned the different types of reproduction in plants. So we have asexual. Again, can you remember what is asexual? There is no male and cells involved. Okay, there is only one parent. Okay, how about sexual reproduction in plants? So there is gametes. Okay, there are 2 male. So what about sexual reproduction? So in sexual reproduction in plants, it involves gametes. There is a male and a female cells. So plants possess flowers. Flowers are the reproductive structures of the plants. In a flower, okay, so flowers are reproductive structures. So in a flower, there is the stamen. Okay, everybody repeat after me, stamen. Stamen. So a stamen is the male sex organ of the flower. Okay, male, it means the boy, okay, part of the flower. Then we have the pistil. It is the female sex organ. Okay, everybody repeat after me, pistil. Pistil. Okay, so a pistil is the female sex organ. So question, but how does this process of sexual reproduction in plants occur? Okay, so let's try and understand, but before that, let's have a quick look of a typical structure of a flower. Okay, so what are their components? Okay, let's find out. So there are these are divided into 2 parts. So we have essential parts, everybody, essential parts, non-essential parts, non-essential parts. So when we say essential parts, okay, so essential parts, these are the parts that are directly involved in the reproduction. Okay, so these are, when we say essential parts, these are mainly the stamen and the pistil. Okay, stamen and the pistil. While the non means not. While the non-essential parts, these are, what are this? So the non-essential parts are this one, the pink and the green one here are the non-essential parts. So this refers to the petals. Okay, the pink one are the petals and the green one here are the sepals. Everybody, petal, petal, petal. How do we spell petal? P-E-T-A-L, plural S, and then sepals or sepal, Spelling SEPAL. So these are the non-essential parts. So when we say non-essential parts, they are not directly involved in the reproduction. So petals and sepals, they are not really directly involved in the reproduction in plants. So let's take a deeper look of this. So stamen. So stamen again is the male part. So it's easy to remember. Men, what do you mean by men? It means male. Okay. So stamen is the male part of the flower. And stamen, student, has two main parts. So the first part is we have the anther. Okay. Everybody repeat after me. Anther. Anther. Second one is filament. 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 So do this anther and filament have specific function? The answer is yes. Okay. So anther and filament are important. So inside these anther, students, if we zoom in, we can see a pollen grains. So what is a pollen grain? Pollen grain is an important cells of the plant. Okay, this is the male reproductive cell. These pollen grains are very small and it looks like a powder, and they are very light. So it can, because it's very light, it can fly in the air or float in the water. Okay. So these pollen grains are transferred. Okay, they need to be transferred from the anther. Okay, from the anther, going to the female part of the flower. So speaking of the female part, we will discuss it now. Okay, so this is the female part of the flower. It's called the pistil. Everybody, pistil. Pistil. So female part of the flower. The pistil, students, are composed of three main types. Okay, namely we have the stigma, style, and the ovary. So what are their specific function? So these are the pollen grains need to be deposited first in the stigma. Okay, so remember the pollen grains, the small and light powder from the anther. So it needs to be landed here, okay, in the stigma. Okay, so from the anther again transferred to the stigma, and this process is called pollination. Okay, everybody repeat after me. Pollination. Pollination. Okay, so these pollen grains will go underground, okay, through the style. Okay, everybody, style. Style. So a style, student, is a long tube, okay, that connects stigma going to the ovary. Okay, so what is ovary? So ovary, student, is a swollen, okay, meaning it's like a big, okay, basal portion which contains, okay, inside you can see the ovules. Okay, so what is an ovule? Okay, let's find out. Okay, what is ovules? So ovule, student, is this actually the female reproductive cell of the plant. Okay, again, female reproductive cell of the plant. So this ovule will develops into an embryo. Everybody, embryo. Embryo. So what exactly is an embryo? The embryo will become eventually a seed, and then the seed will become a plant. Okay, this seems to be complicated, but actually it's not. Okay, so ovule will turn into seed. Okay, while the ovary, student, most of the ovary, they will transform or develop into a fruit. So I think that's one of the this is the main parts of the flower that we need to know. So these are all the important parts of a flower. So before we will end our class, we will have a short review of this specific topic, okay, parts of a flower. So I have here we will have a short activity, a game activity actually. I'm sure you will like this. So how to play? Identify and label the figure. Type the correct word in the given blank spaces and complete the labeling. Okay. So parts of the flower. Number one is, what is that? Can you guess? We have style, ovule, anther, sepal, petal, and stigma. So what do you think this one? Start with letter P. Okay, this is the petal. Then followed by, what is this? This is the what? Stigma. Then we have the anther, style. And we have the anther, then petal, and we have your, what is that? Ovule. Okay, so petal, stigma, style, anther, petal, and ovule. Okay, let's do it again, one more time. So first, what is that? Yes, that is the petal. How about this one? That is the what? Stigma. How about that one? That is the style. Then that is the anther, followed by the green sepal, and the last one is the ovule. Very good. Okay.